event performance discussion related to the Inventing Creativity program. We have a very nice large exhibition in the main hall that was put together as a collaboration with some industrial design researchers on the history of creativity, its appropriation by the business world, and maybe tracing some of the iconography and tropes of creativity that are prevalent in our culture. And in putting together that exhibition, we also wanted to not just present the history of it, but actually to get some contemporary perspectives. And I happened to meet our feature artist at an electronic literature organization conference, and I saw her performance, and I just was wowed by her work, and I think you'll agree with me, but also with the fact that her work is really addressing these themes of creativity so directly, such as creativity as a guise for development, economic development specifically, sort of this little bit of like a naive optimism associated with some creativity firms and startups, thinking about who assesses creativity and what these types of assessments and metrics and how they're connected to the creative economy and the professional economy, and where technology is actually playing a role with that, with things like AI interviewers and stuff. And so that's some of the construct of her work, and I don't want to break it down too much. We'll talk a little bit after with her. So I'm just going to introduce our artist. It's Carrie Sijia Wang, and she's a New York-based creativity technology artist making interactive experiences inspired by bureaucratic processes, standardized tests, and hidden systems. Her interdisciplinary practices uses graphic design, code, video, live performance to explore the space between the real and the fictional, the rational and the absurd. Wang is a 2021-22 member of New Inc., a 2021 Pioneer Works resident, 2020 Mozilla Creative Media Award recipient, and the 2019 and 20 Research Fellow at Interactive Telecommunications Program at New York University. Her work has been shown with venues including the Onassis Foundation, ACM, SIGGRAPH, New York Transit Museum, AIR Gallery, New York Live Arts and Culture Hub. She holds a BFA from the School of Art Institute of Chicago and an MPS from NYU. She is teaching at NYU's Tisch Interactive Media Arts program as an adjunct professor. Check out her website for knowledge sharing on creative coding, P5JS, Arduino, and surveillance in the workplace. And that's her name, carriesijiawang.com. And there's plenty of information on the web. So with no further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her for a performance, and then we'll have a nice interview and Q&A with her.
Candidate 3752, welcome to the Content Generator Qualification Test. The test is simple. In a given amount of time, type as much valid content as possible. After each round of the test, you will be reintegrated by reading a list of carefully selected textual content. Confirm you are Candidate 3752.
Yes, I confirm.
You are a little nervous. Try deep breathing a few times. Now look into the camera, focus. Good job. Subject confirmed. Get ready for the test now. To pass the test and be a qualified content generator, generate 4,000 units of content in 540 units of time. Zero current speed. 470 target speed. 0 units of content generated. 4,000 units of content left. 465 units of time. Not all typed words count as valid content. What you typed was irrelevant. Align yourself with the system. Zero current speed. .615 target speed. Zero units of content generated. Listen, repeat and remember. My nation intervene and end all conflicts, protect us, keep you ever free.
My nation intervene and end all conflicts, protect us, keep you ever free. My nation, all.
May it fly high more than the shining mantles of our country invincible.
May it fly high more than the shining mantles of our country invincible. May it fly. Mantles, mantles, may, of.
Focus. Zero current speed. .705 target speed. Zero units of content generated. .4,000 units of content left. .310 units of time. Don't be yourself. Be a part of the test. This is more like it, but you are still analyzing. The essence of the game is to stop thinking. Just type. Free yourself of logics and knowledge. Zero current speed. 0 units of content generated. Listen, repeat and remember, for the flag stands the forests are singing new songs and news.
For the flag stands, forests are singing new songs, forests, and
with my struggle and gladiatorial patience drive off all enemies.
With my struggle and gladiatorial patience drive off all enemies.
The dream grows waving in glory everlasting.
The dream grows waving in glory everlasting.
Focus. Zero current speed. (1090) target speed. You are overcomplicating things. Just type. Don't recite slogans. Embed them into your body. It is not about what you type. It's how you type that matters. (180 units of time). Perfect. You are starting to get it. (23 current speed). (1451) target speed. (617 units of content generated). (129 units of time). Listen, repeat and remember, you have my love and loyalty, our country and those who suffer bless their passion.
You have my love and loyalty, our country, those who suffer bless their passion, our bless.
This is our land with honor and peace each day.
This is our land with honor and peace each day. This with honor. With honor.
May the laurels be eternal, that we may live blissfully under thy banner.
May the laurels be eternal, that we live blissfully under thy banner. Be that thy.
Establish and fortify us, our beautiful and dear country.
Establish and fortify us, our beautiful and dear country. Fortify our dear.
Focus. Current speed. (1470) on target speed. (1,148) units of content generated. Listen, repeat and remember. March forward, sons and daughters of this jam beyond compare.
March forward, sons and daughters of this jam beyond compare.
Oh, our country since the beginning and forever shall be our guiding light.
Oh, our country since the beginning and forever shall be our guiding light. And
holding high the banner, oh so fearless and gracious, our object of faith.
Holding high the banner, oh so fearless and gracious, our object of faith. Oh, so our
pressing onward towards the ends, an intense dream, a nation.
Pressing onward towards the ends, an intense dream, a nation. Onward towards ends.
Focus. .35 current speed. .1584 target speed. .3202 units of content generated. .570 units of content left. .9 units of time. Congratulations, candidate 3752. You are one step closer to becoming a content generator in the Office of Content Generation.
Thank you.
Well, good morning. Thanks for joining us from New York today and performing for us. I was hoping.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to change my name to my name to Carrie instead of. It seems like I can't do that. That's okay. Thanks for inviting me.
No problem. Well, you're really playing the role, right? And so take it through. No, we're happy to have you. Anyway, basically for the format for the rest of the event, as I was going to have a little bit of a discussion with you, I'm going to try to ask you a few questions to kind of get the ball rolling, and then definitely want to hear from the audience as well. So this piece that you just performed is called the System 2.0, and I like it because it's like a hybrid of like a job interview and then like a citizenship interview or something. So anyway, could you kind of tell us a little bit about like its gestation and iterations? It is 2.0, so like what was the added functionality, and I think that might be a nice start.
Sure. So the project, the System 2.0, is based on an earlier project of mine that's just called the System. The System is a similar performance piece. It's a lot shorter. It's only 5 minutes. 2.0 is 15 minutes. And the System was designed to be performed in person. And I was getting some opportunities to perform the System right before the pandemic. And obviously those events got canceled during the lockdown in New York last year. And like many other artists who are working in performance, I was trying to figure out different ways to show my work virtually. And because the work is already code based, it actually felt pretty natural to adapt my piece to a virtual format. And so the system 2.0 was this response to the lockdown. But I think its transition to the virtual didn't feel forced at all. I would even say that it's meant to live online on a virtual platform because that it's already a program created with code, and it's created with JavaScript, so it can be easily shared in the browser. And with the webcam connected to it and all that, it just feels very natural to make it into a live streamed piece. Yeah, so that's in terms of like added functionality. I wouldn't say that there is any added functionality in terms of it's just the content changed a little bit and the technology changed with it. I added more. So before, with the system 1.0, or however I call that, I was only typing random words, and for the computer is just automatically displaying text as I type. But with 2.0, I added this part where I could actually type on the keyboard and say what I want before it goes all automated. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Pete, the more oral part, like is that's the voice activation is actually disappearing the words.
Yeah. Oh, that is also an added part. So with the previous work, I was just following whatever the computer says, and there wasn't really any real detection of voice or speech. And with 2.0, I added speech recognition, and I would actually have to pronounce the words correctly for the computer to recognize them and to delete those words from the sentence. So yeah, I think that's working pretty well because it's also the speech recognition API that I use is trained by Google. So it prefers American accent. And English is not my first language, so sometimes it doesn't recognize certain words that I speak. So I think that's also a pretty nice like critique of how these like data sets are being trained and what which people they are being trained on.
So with your body of work in digital mediums, and their kind of this role in this technocracy, makes you a little bit suspicious of these upgrades, right? And so that kind of plays a role in this piece as well, correct?
Right. Yeah. It's not that I am against any kind of upgrades or the advancement of technology in general. I just feel like there isn't enough voice that is questioning the development of technology, and not a lot of people are like carefully examining if the use of specific technical tools is ethical or trustworthy. I mean, there are many activists, artists, researchers working to promote the idea that tech should be more socially aware. But I would say that the majority of people are still seeing the advancement of technology as this undeniable symbol of progress. So that's why I decided to like stand on the other side a little bit and raise questions about this kind of value. And the system, sorry, the system 2.0 is obviously using technology to like monitor, surveil, quantify, test, evaluate this performer. But to me, this piece is a little less about technology. It's more about power and control. Yeah.
Well, an interesting tidbit that people in the audience might have not picked up, but I was reading about it online, and so the sort of voice activation segment, that content is actually pulled from various like patriotic songs and anthems, correct?
Yeah, they are made with all of the national anthems in the world. I forgot how many there are, a little less than 200. So I fed all of the national anthems. I got rid of all the specific country names and region names so that people can tell where they're from. So I feed all of the lyrics into an markup chain algorithm. And it kind of like mixes. So this algorithm just mixes everything together like in a soup, and then like take out ingredients in a different order. So it's like all mixed up. It feels like a national anthem, but it's not specifically any national anthem.
I think that's a nice touch that sort of adds to this fictive dystopic world that's really not dissimilar from our world at all.
Right.
And that quality is really also at play with the AI interview with Alex, which I think this is a part of the exhibition. So that's the interactive piece that's a part of the exhibition in the main hall. And really, I was curious about the timing, but in some ways there's a lot of similarities between the system, and so maybe that's almost like a proto piece of the system. I don't know exactly how the history of you designing these chronologically happened, but would you agree with that, or?
Sure. And an interview with Alex actually came after the system. When I was when I was doing more research about the workplace, surveillance in the workplace, and using automated management systems in the workplace. Yeah, and I mean, my work process is mostly story driven. Before I design or code anything, I would come up with the story first. It's not necessarily a linear story. It could be a scene, it could be a state of mind, or it could be some kind of process like the interview. For an interview with Alex, I wrote a short story first about someone living in this fictional world where all work is gamified and all offices are managed by artificial intelligence. And the short story is nothing like the interview itself, but it was very useful for the world building part of the process. And then the design of the interview and the look of the interface came next. With the story already being there, it was a lot easier for me to imagine what everything looks like in this fictional world, or how the process of the interview would be brought out. And then the coding part comes last. But in the process of using technology to realize this experience, to bring it into existence, the specific technological tools also inspired a lot of the decisions I made about the interview process. It's the same with the System 2.0. I wasn't really thinking about speech recognition when I first made the piece, but as I was like coding, it just felt natural to use speech recognition for the part when I'm reciting slogans.
It's like, yeah, I was curious if maybe you can even talk a little bit more, because I mean that gives us the sort of your workflow or ideation to execution of a piece, but then you've added this additional layer of overlapping it and using it performatively, the technology. So can you maybe talk, we're at the TU, so can you talk a little bit more about, how you're using the digital media for performance?
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to say I'm a performance artist. I feel like a imposter when I say that. I have like this one performance that I keep doing over and over again. Um, but I think originally I wanted to do performance just because I wasn't able to make something um, like interactive and functional very well. Say if the system 2.0 is an interactive experience, like all kinds of problems would occur. You have to like take the users into consideration a lot, and because it's set in this like dystopic world, even though it's pretty similar to the real world, but it still requires some onboarding. Like say if you're just a person, you're just off work, you go into this like gallery of some sort and see this piece. I will have to do a lot of work to like onboard you into the world to be able to experience that without you having a lot of things on your mind about your own life. So like for you to like really get into the situation, that's just really difficult. So and also working with interactive media, I've found that people are like always hesitant to interact with an art piece, and they're also kind of afraid of things that look like artificial intelligence. They just don't, and especially when it's in a public space, people don't want to make a fool of themselves. So I think, okay, I'll just be the fool. I'll perform it for you, and you can just sit and watch, and that's easier. Yeah,
Notice
that's why.
even in the installation here, the webcam, I think when people notice it and walk by, it's yeah, it's like it's not a they're not it's not an attraction to the spotlight of the webcam. It's like it's a diversion.
Right.
Maybe one last question for me, and then we'll turn it over to some other folks. We're talking about this interview with Alex, and how that bears when we were corresponding about the exhibition, and how that bears resemblance to these old tests, like creativity tests in the 50s, like the brick test, and you're supposed to list the functionality, and these line tests where you sort of complete the drawing to sort of make different figures or something from a series of lines, and so an interview with Alex has these features these line tests, the matching tiles or the out of place tiles. So I was kind of curious, how much research went into that, and probably more importantly, do you feel like creativity can be assessed, and by who? And I'm curious if you even have different answers to that when you're wearing your different hats of like artist, designer, coder, teacher, etc.
Sure. I actually didn't know anything about the line tests. I'm curious about it and would like to learn more. I wish I was there, like to see the exhibition, learn more about that. I was sure. Yeah, please. Um, I was just trying to think of a test for the interviewees in the project, the Alex project, and I wanted the test to resemble some kind of a mini game people play on their cell phones. I want it to be a simple game, easy to play. I want it to be potentially addictive, um, and that it also needs to be abstract enough so it could be about anything. So I thought of the idea that humans like to find patterns in everything. So that's why I made this game of patterns. What is more important to me is not the game or test itself, but the fact that its rules are constantly changing. through the different rounds, and the interviewee doesn't really have a clear idea about how the rules are different in each round, which is a critique on like the lack of transparency in many of the automated systems we engage with in our everyday life, like social media, or if your company uses some automated management system, like you don't really know how their algorithms work. Their rules changed, but you have no idea how. And to your question about creativity and assessment, I think anything that can be assessed needs to have a clear purpose and a set of standards that can be used to quantify the data and measure the data or information coming in. So it's weird that what's weird about the concept of the assessment of creativity is that we don't really know like what's the purpose of creativity, and how can we even quantify that. It kind of reminds me of like the IQ test a little bit. It's like intelligence, and the IQ test is just a way for, say, some people to feel a little bit more superior than the others. And having a high IQ doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're better at your work or that you will be more successful in life. In the end, it's just a number. What?
The only thing you're better at is the test, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like if there is like a creativity test, like I don't know, CQ or whatever, if you score higher, it doesn't mean that you are more creative or you can make better artwork. But I mean, as the teacher, I'm a new teacher, so I'm still trying to like figure it out. I try to assess students' work based on their own standards. They should be clear about, like, before they make a project or as they make projects, they should be clear about what they want to achieve with their projects, and I look at their work based on the goal and the standards that they set up on their own. And I do this to myself too whenever I work on my own projects.
Cool. Well, I want to turn it over to some other voices in Q&A. Does anyone have a question for Carrie? Yeah. Sure.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yeah, are you getting levels on that, Papan? Yep. Okay.
Okay. Thanks for the performance. It was really interesting one. I have a question about the definition of creativity to you. There can be many definitions depending on person to person, but for you, what is the most important, let's say, aspect of creativity to call it as a creativity? There can be many things, but what is the most crucial one to you? Thanks.
Sure, thank you.
Good question.
I don't know the definition of creativity. But yeah, I have some thoughts. I mean, my definition of creativity changed over the years too. I mean, I came from a graphic design background. I worked as a full-time graphic designer for 5 years. And the kind of creativity promoted in many parts of the design industry is very much rooted in like the values that your clients want to promote. It's more of a marketing mindset, really. It's more about being stylish than about being original. It adds to like whatever you create adds to the commercial value of your client's product. It cannot really stand on its own. And although as designers, we keep saying creativity is the core, it's almost never really about being creative. I feel like creativity feels like a byproduct of the industry. or just a fancy word to advertise whatever we do. And the core is just how to accurately convey the client's values and attract the attention of their end users, which is not necessarily wrong. It's just not something that I felt very passionate about. And now, when I think of creativity, I think it's I think for me, it's the ability to associate different things that are not normally put together. Just like when I create a project, when I say associate coding with graphic design, with the user experience, with the story, and put them together to make something that makes sense for to convey the idea that I want to convey. To me, that's closer to the definition of creativity.
Anybody else?
Hi, well, thank you very much for your performance. A professional graphic designer here, by the way. Your thought about well, creativity being a bit overvalued in the work field of graphic design, or maybe just mislabeled. The question that I wanted to ask you, I was very intrigued with this dystopian world that you're sort of giving this very short peek into with your performance. I think the nice thing is that probably everyone here has created now, sort of filled in the blanks that you didn't fill in, and created their own version of this dystopian world. So what I kind of wanted to know from you is, well, what inspired you to create this dystopian world? Like, where did you source it from, or maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what this dystopian world is like to you.
Sure, thank you.
Did you hear it, or would you like me to rephrase it?
Can you rephrase it a little? I heard most of it, but it was a little bit choppy towards the end.
Sure, he was asking if you could, he was talking about the imaginative process of the dystopian world by the audience of the piece, and that we're sort of illustrating that in our own imaginations. He was asking if you could provide more of a glimpse into your world, that the sort of world build that out a little bit more, and then also talking about I believe a little bit more of the history of building that world.
Sure, yeah, that's a great question, and I really appreciate the observation about how I'm just providing some fragments of the world, and that's exactly what I want, because I want everybody to find something related to them, and they can think of it in their own ways, based on their own experience and background. What really, it's very hard to say that exactly what inspired the system. It was a combo of things, I think. I grew up in China, and when I was like growing up in like the 90s and early 2000s, there was this like very pervasive exam culture in the country. So we were like taking tests and exams all the time, and we were like graded based on the scores we got, and like teachers and parents would like treat us differently based on our ranking. So it was something that I resented a lot growing up, but then I realized it has kind of like become part of me. Like it or not, I kind of see the world this way, and it's very hard to like deprogram it. I kind of like see everything as a test. So that's why I'm making a lot of projects that resemble tests or exams, basically systems that are evaluating people based on an exterior set of standards. And when I was creating the piece, I think at the time, a lot of like nationalism was rising in a lot of countries as well. Like Trump was president, and like everywhere in the world, it was just not. Yeah, it was just becoming very dystopic. So that kind of a world environment also inspired the piece.
Cool. Should have just stayed over there.
Thank you. Then a related question to that. One thing I was very curious about when I saw the piece is how willing 3752 was to actually participate and keep participating in everything being asked. Could you elaborate a bit more on what drove that willingness to participate?
Are you asking how can I make it more approachable for people so they want to participate in interactive experiences? Is that what you mean?
I don't want to speak for him, but I think he was asking more about like your willingness to the in the fiction of the universe, the candidate's willingness to keep on going along with the test, and so I think it was more along that lines, like the compliance, and
So
when
why?
compliance also plays a big role in the interview with Alex too, right? The compliance of the candidate and these to go through
Right.
these tests.
Right. So you mean why would they want to keep going even if the system is like treating them pretty badly?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the reality, right? Like we do a lot of things that we don't really want to do for say financial reasons, or if the society is set up in a way for you to behave a certain way, you wouldn't want to steer away from that too much because you want to be integrated into the culture and the society as a well-adjusted human being. And in these like dystopic worlds, like in the system or in an interview with Alex, that's the norm, and you just have to follow along, even if that's not something that you really want to do. Yeah, compliance is a big part of all these tests. Like in an interview with Alex, back to like the pattern game, for example, the round 3 of the game was actually impossible to beat and it's impossible to pass. But the interviewee doesn't know. The interviewee would just want to like try to find the tile that looks different from the others while all the tiles are actually created equal. And the system of the interview is actually trying to find out how willing you are to participate. If you get confused and you start thinking too much and you stop playing, it's going to deduct a certain amount of score from your total as a penalty. But if you keep playing despite the fact that there really isn't any tile that's different, they will award you with a certain amount of score. It's kind of, yeah, it's very cynical, but yeah, that's part of the design.
Up a little bit because this is actually going to a live stream.
Yeah,
so.
sure. Hi, thank you for your performance. Can you hear me clearly? No? Hello?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I cannot see you, by the way, but
All right, no problem.
here.
What I see from your performance is more about obedience and order, more than creativity itself. What I want to ask is that, do you think obedience or order is intrinsically conflict with creativity itself? Or is there any method or way to let them not go against each other? Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, now I can see you. Hi. Yeah, I don't. That's a really good question. That's I don't think my instinct tells me that they're not intrinsically in conflict. But I really haven't thought about this question very much. I'm curious, like, what you think since you asked the question. Why does it even come to mind? I guess there might be ways to like for an obedient person to be creative. I don't think those are in conflict. But I'm really curious why you asked the question.
Many standardized procedure or something like this do facilitate our work or life. And that does not mean that it will jeopardize your creativity as long as I have thought. That's why I have this question for you. Can you hear me?
Sorry, you broke off in the end. You said you're from an engineering background.
Yeah, so I also do tests, and I think from my experience that standardized procedure do facilitate our life and working process. So to me, that does not really jeopardize your creativity, do good things. So that's why I want to ask you, because what you show is that obedience and order destroy you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think order destroys creativity. No, like we need some kind of order for sure. And standardized procedures, they are created to originally to make things easier, right? You don't want to like think about all the details whenever you make something and reinvent everything when you say make a project or work on something together. You would need that kind of a standardized procedure. What I am worried about or critiquing is just the fact that sometimes people keep going the same route over and over again with like the same procedure, or when there is like an automated system, when you don't really understand how it works, but it's already like controlling every part of your life, without leaving you no space to really think about other ways of doing things. So that's something that I think we would want to avoid. It's not that I am completely against any standardized procedure or I'm against order. No, it's just that we don't want to like go extreme, or we would still have to like be clear about what we actually want out of a certain project or out of certain things, instead of just blindly following. Thank you.
Okay, I think that about wraps up the time that we have today. But I want to thank our artist very much for sharing her work, performing it for us, and being a part of our exhibition, and giving us some insights into creativity, automated systems, dystopic worlds not dissimilar to our own, and the assessment of creativity. So I think we covered a lot of subjects here, and we wish we could join us in a little refreshment after, but we thank you for coming in virtually and sharing your work with us today, Carrie. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'm going to turn this just so you can see a little bit more of the room.
Thank you all. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, thank you very much and have a wonderful afternoon. We are going into evening here.
Oh, have a great evening, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll send you some creativity line tests.
Sure, yeah, I'll take those tests.
All right, bye-bye.
All right, bye. Thank you.